The United Kingdom, once a beacon of economic might in Europe, finds itself grappling with a deepening economic crisis. This crisis is multifaceted, stemming from a combination of internal and external factors that have collectively weakened the nation's economic foundation. This crisis has not only diminished its standing on the world stage, but has also cast a long shadow over its future prospects. The once thriving high streets are now dotted with empty storefronts, and the stock market reflects the nation's economic malaise. Once a leading voice in the European Union, shaping economic policies and driving growth, the UK is now wrestling with a perfect storm of challenges. The decision to leave the EU has had far-reaching consequences, affecting everything from trade to political influence. Brexit, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the global energy crisis have converged to create a potent cocktail of economic woes. Each of these events alone would have been challenging, but together they have created unprecedented economic turbulence. This essay delves into the key events that have plunged the UK into this economic quagmire. We will trace the timeline of these significant occurrences and their cumulative impact on the nation's economy. It examines the impact of these events, analyzing the country's economic performance through key indicators, such as GDP growth, GDP per capita, and inflation. These metrics paint a stark picture of the economic challenges facing the UK. Furthermore, we will explore the UK government's response to this crisis and assess its effectiveness. From fiscal policies to emergency measures, the government's actions will be scrutinized to understand their impact. Finally, we will broaden our lens to understand how this crisis has reverberated across Europe, affecting trade, investment, and the overall economic sentiment. The interconnected nature of modern economies means that the UK's struggles are felt far beyond its borders. The UK's decision to leave the European Union in 2016, widely known as Brexit, marked a turning point in its economic trajectory. This monumental decision was the result of a deeply divided public opinion, with debates raging over sovereignty, immigration, and economic independence. The divorce from the world's largest trading bloc injected a significant degree of uncertainty into the British economy. The immediate aftermath saw businesses scrambling to understand the new landscape, with many unsure of how to navigate the impending changes. Businesses, accustomed to the seamless flow of goods, services, and people within the EU's single market, were suddenly confronted with a thicket of new regulations, tariffs, and border checks. This abrupt shift disrupted supply chains and increased operational costs, forcing companies to rethink their strategies. This disruption had a chilling effect on investment, both domestic and foreign, as businesses adopted a wait-and-see approach to gauge the long-term implications of Brexit. The uncertainty made it difficult for companies to plan for the future, leading to a slowdown in economic activity. The pound sterling, a bellwether of the UK's economic health, experienced wild fluctuations in the wake of the referendum, reflecting the underlying anxieties about the future. These currency swings had a direct impact on import and export prices, further complicating the economic outlook. The free movement of people, a cornerstone of the EU, came to an end, impacting businesses that relied on European labor and creating skills shortages in certain sectors. Industries such as agriculture, healthcare, and hospitality were particularly hard hit, struggling to fill positions and maintain operations. Just as the UK was grappling with the aftershocks of Brexit, the COVID-19 pandemic struck in early 2020, delivering a devastating blow to the global economy. Like other nations, the UK was forced to impose strict lockdown measures to curb the spread of the virus. These measures brought economic activity to a grinding halt, shuttering businesses, disrupting supply chains, and forcing millions into unemployment. The impact on the UK economy was profound. In the second quarter of 2020, the UK experienced a staggering 20% contraction in GDP, the sharpest decline on record. While the government's furlough scheme cushioned the blow for many workers, the pandemic left deep scars on the economy, exacerbating pre-existing inequalities and pushing many businesses to the brink. As if Brexit and the pandemic weren't enough, the UK was hit by another shockwave in 2022, the global energy crisis. Triggered by a confluence of factors, including geopolitical tensions, supply chain disruptions, and surging demand as economies recovered from the pandemic, energy prices skyrocketed. For the UK, heavily reliant on natural gas for heating and electricity generation, this translated into soaring energy bills for businesses and households alike. Businesses, already grappling with rising input costs due to Brexit and the pandemic, were squeezed further, forcing many to pass on these costs to consumers in the form of higher prices. This, in turn, fueled a cost of living crisis, eroding consumer purchasing power and further dampening economic activity. To Section 5, the GDP roller coaster, a story of volatility and uncertainty. The combined impact of Brexit, the pandemic, and the energy crisis is starkly evident in the UK's volatile GDP growth figures. Each of these events has left an indelible mark on the economy, creating a roller coaster of growth and contraction that has been difficult to navigate. After the record contraction in 2020, the economy rebounded sharply in 2021, growing by 8.6% as lockdown measures eased and pent-up demand was released. This period saw a surge in consumer spending, with people eager to return to normalcy. However, this proved to be a temporary reprieve. The initial burst of economic activity began to wane as underlying issues resurfaced, and the momentum could not be sustained. Growth slowed to 4.8% in 2022 and further decelerated to a meager 0.4% in 2023. This slowdown was driven by a combination of factors, including supply chain disruptions, rising inflation, and ongoing political uncertainties. By 2024, the UK economy was on track for an anemic 0.9% growth, a far cry from the robust expansions enjoyed in the pre-Brexit era. The economic landscape had fundamentally changed, with businesses struggling to adapt to new realities. This sluggish growth is a testament to the deep-seated challenges facing the UK economy, suggesting that the road to recovery will be long and arduous. The future remains uncertain, and the nation must navigate these turbulent times with resilience and adaptability. Section 6, GDP per capita, a nation losing its productivity edge. While overall GDP growth provides a snapshot of the economy's performance, GDP per capita, which measures output per person, offers a more nuanced perspective on living standards and productivity. A declining GDP per capita, even in the face of overall GDP growth, suggests that the economy is becoming less efficient and that living standards are stagnating or even declining. Worryingly, the UK has witnessed a concerning trend of declining GDP per capita in recent years. From £37,371 in 2022, it fell to £37,028 in 2023 and further to £36,977 in 2024. This suggests that the UK is facing a productivity crisis, a worrying sign for the long-term health of the economy. Section 7, Inflation bites, eroding purchasing power and trust. Adding to the economic misery is the specter of inflation, which has been rearing its ugly head in the UK and across the globe. Fueled by supply chain disruptions, surging energy prices, and loose monetary policy, inflation has eroded consumer purchasing power, leading to a cost of living crisis that has left many struggling to make ends meet. In October 2022, the UK's inflation rate hit a 40-year high of 11.1%, driven primarily by soaring energy and food prices. While inflation has since moderated, it remains elevated, eroding consumer confidence and putting a strain on household budgets. Section 8, Government grappling, a flurry of measures, limited success. Faced with this daunting array of challenges, the UK government has scrambled to respond, deploying a range of fiscal and monetary policy measures. These have included interest rate hikes to tame inflation, tax cuts to stimulate spending, and investment incentives to boost business confidence. However, the effectiveness of these measures has been limited. The Bank of England, tasked with keeping inflation in check, has come under fire for being slow to react to rising prices. Its decision to raise interest rates aggressively has been criticized for potentially tipping the economy into recession. Meanwhile, the government's fiscal policies have been criticized for being poorly targeted and for failing to address the root causes of the UK's economic woes. On Section 9, European echoes, a crisis with ripples across the continent. The UK's economic crisis has not been confined to its shores. As a major economy and a key trading partner, the UK's woes have reverberated across the European Union, creating economic headwinds for the bloc. Brexit, in particular, has had a tangible impact on trade between the UK and the EU. The introduction of new customs checks and border controls has led to delays and disruptions to the flow of goods, impacting businesses on both sides of the English Channel. The decline in foreign direct investment from the EU into the UK is another consequence of the crisis, reflecting diminished confidence in the UK's economic prospects.